The Buddhas of Boston Sports. How Bill Belichick Ended the Opioid Crisis. Chapter 1. A Brief History of Time Without Beginning. What is Buddhism, really? It is what it is. That all? No. It's as simple as cause and effect, and that's all? Not quite. Everybody knows Einstein's E equals mc squared, energy equals mass multiplied by the speed of light squared, the theory of special relativity. It led to the nuclear age. The difference between the 5 characters making up the equation and a working experiment to prove it is vast. Sure, we all know E equals mc squared, duh, it's Einstein, but very few can actually use it. This is for the better. The global abolition of nuclear weapons is the mission of Daisaku Ikeda and his mentor, Jose Toda. The life philosophy of Buddhism and the 5 characters of Myoho Rengekyo is different as it applies to everybody, and anybody can try it out and actually experience proof. Einstein was looking for a theory of everything. Gautama Buddha, also known as Siddhartha or Shakyamuni Buddha, the OG, he came up with a theory of everything, and he explains it in the Lotus Sutra. Nichiren Daishonin came up with the equation for Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, or NMRK, and he also created the Gohonzon, which is basically a meme or a collection of emojis, but more on that later. Shakyamuni Buddha lived about 2,500 years ago, roughly 500 years before Jesus and the birth of Christianity. Not that I believed in Jesus' divinity, but he certainly could have existed. It's easily plausible there was a man named Jesus who existed in Israel and Jerusalem and who was horribly executed. The miracles and virgin birth, they might be more like embellishments of real events. The words and action of Jesus are very similar to those of the Buddhas, and we'll explore Jesus' own Buddha nature and his enlightenment later. Both founded major world religions, but from their message, multitudes of factions and interpretations sprang forth. In both cases, nothing was written down until after their deaths, so all the information is third-hand at best. And I believe myself to be scientific, and I tend to follow Occam's razor, which is making a hypothesis based on the fewest assumptions. And Buddhism clears the way, all the magical, and replaces it with the mystical. Many Bible believers require you to believe everything in it, even though it was compiled of numerous texts, and some may have been left out, and there are many assumptions that you have to make for it to be 100% correct. It may have some historical stories and people, but much of it is supernatural. Buddhism pursues cause and effect. It's the search for the cause of the effects that you experience. A scientist will conduct experiments to find proof of truth, and Buddhists try to get actual proof in their lives by chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. If they weren't getting the results, they wouldn't keep doing it. The Buddha grew up as a prince in a palace in India, living a life of opulence. When he was 29, he left the palace grounds, this ancient millennial seeing the world for the first time. He saw an old man, a sick person, and a decaying corpse. The prince's father had worked very hard to shield him from the reality of the universal sufferings. To be almost 30 years old and not seeing a sick or dying person amidst this wealth in India, it's wild. The real world made the Buddha very sad, witnessing what he describes as the 4 universal sufferings: birth, aging, sickness, and death. These are the 4 problems everybody faces. If you're here, you've been born. And if you're born, you're going to die. You're going to age and then die, and most likely get sick along the way. These were people... There were people in that era preaching different methods of overcoming these problems. Society in India was ruled by a caste system. Where you were born was where you belonged for forever, lifetime after lifetime. They believed in reincarnation, but there was no movement of the spirit. If you were born a royal, you were always a royal. If your family was poor, you were born to be poor. You were stuck being poor. If your father was a holy man, you could become a holy man. The idea of enlightenment existed if you were a holy man and after lifetimes of practice. Coming from the obscene wealth of the royal family inside the palace into the real world of poverty and filth outside, the Buddha wanted to help everyone, regardless of caste or circumstance, and become happy. A lotus flower blooming in a nasty-ass swamp is a common Buddhist symbol of the simultaneous blooming and seeding and the beauty that can be found in such dirty, disgusting, swampy water. It's common knowledge that for growing marijuana, the smelliest manure in guano or fish shit grows some of the best flour. The analogy holds true, although there are no seeds in the ganja, please. The Buddha gave up his life of luxury and lived as a beggar, following different yogis, learning yoga and some bizarre austere practices. Some required him to deny himself food and water, or to self-flagellate in search of understanding of pain and suffering through extreme pain and suffering. These methods weren't working for him and left him nearly dead. According to legend, while meditating under the Bodhi tree, he received an offering from a young girl and attained enlightenment. He realized that he became enlightened right there under that tree, but he has always been the Buddha. It just took him some 34 years in his current lifetime to realize it, and that he was always enlightened in his previous lifetimes too. He could see his past lifetimes and how he came to that spot in realization, and more importantly, he could see in the future and realize that the actions or causes you make extend through time. The understanding of being a Buddha from time without beginning was too much to reveal to the people all at once, right off the bat. After his enlightenment, the Buddha traveled and preached various sutras, lessons, or aphorisms along the way, according to his disciples' level of understanding. Nothing was written down at that time, so it's all a matter of faith, but these various sutras allowed for various schools of Buddhism to rise, and based on all these teachings. The Lotus Sutra was the next to last sutra the Buddha taught, and in it he said to disregard his previous teachings. He was about to reveal the truth. The Lotus Sutra is full of parables and impossible stories and metaphors, but it all boils down to one simple fact. He has been the Buddha forever, and everyone has the potential to do the exact same thing now. Anyone can become the Buddha, can become enlightened, and has the potential to become a Buddha. This secret was obscured in a parable and was not immediately understood. When I say that anyone can be a Buddha, I mean anyone. At the time, the idea of a woman or a disabled person becoming a Buddha was unheard of, but according to the Lotus Sutra, this is exactly what he was saying. It took time and many scholars studying Buddhism to even come up with this. The Lotus Sutra is made up of 26 chapters and can be quite fantastical sometimes. It is not meant to be taken literally like other holy books. Each chapter covers an important aspect of Buddhism and serves as instructions to becoming a Buddha. And I'm not trying to shit on the other religions in this book. They all mean well, and at their core they teach great lessons. But for fundamentalists, if you doubt any part of some of the holy books like the Torah, the Bible, or the Quran, then you question God and you're doomed. Islamic extremists use the Quran to justify the subjugation of women, the murder of infidels, and war with the West. And Christian extremists bomb abortion clinics. Go figure. Again, like nothing was written down at the time of the Buddha. So we need to take the information and what's been discovered over time and be flexible with it. Books and stories are what they are. What can we do with them in the here and now, in our current reality? Learn those lessons, analyze the stories like we do in the modern age, do some character breakdowns, but not take them as absolute historical fact. I'm going to give my summations and interpretations that I've learned through the Soka Gakkai International, and would challenge you to go on to study and practice on your own. Come fact check me, bro. The Lotus Sutra opens with the Buddha calling together a massive gathering on Eagle Peak for everyone in Jambudvipa, or all of the world, to hear this teaching that was prepared in such a way that he can reach people of all levels of understanding. Kings, queens, scholars, priests, peasants, farmers, musicians, everybody shows up in the procession. But as they gathered, a third of them leave, not bothering to listen at all. Even though he was the world-honored one about to preach, they grew impatient or some shit and they took off. As great as Buddha is, not everyone wants to hear this message, but the rest who actively seek it are whisked off to the ceremony in the air. What does that mean? Even though it was 2,500 years ago when Buddha revealed this, we are currently still practicing the Lotus Sutra and propagating it. It's possible that the Buddha could see the cause he was making, and the enlightenment he was giving would sustain and persist through time, and that as we, current practitioners, chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo and do our daily practice, we connect with this ceremony in the air. And when we study the Lotus Sutra in the present day, even if we're not there physically, mentally we can imagine being there and hearing the Buddha speak. Buddha could have imagined a guy way the fuck in the future as part of this impossible procession. Why not? I can try to envision the millions of people I hope to shakabuku, or teach about Buddhism, and helping them overcome drug addictions or any other obstacles and lead a happy life, unlocking their Buddha nature from this point forward and forever. And I mean forever, lifetime after lifetime. Now that you know, the causes you make will ripple through time. If you're fortunate enough to survive an overdose and you're able to hear this, you are so lucky. Think about the Red Sox and the Cubs and their long World Series drought, when people went their whole lives without ever being able to witness them winning a title, living possibly 86 years in the case of Boston or 107 years for Chicago. There are people going to their parents' and grandparents' graves saying that their team finally won. People lived entire full lifetimes without seeing the Red Sox win the World Series. And we who are living in Boston in this golden age, witnessing something very special, 4 World Series titles since 2000. Still, we have people dying off in their teens, their 20s, their 30s, and 40s because of this bullshit. So the number of people to hear the Lotus Sutra in this area, in this lifetime, are a fraction of the people to experience what those title droughts were. If you miss the opportunity to practice the Lotus Sutra and awaken your potential in creating a winning culture in your life now, your next lifetime may suffer. Year after year, we want results on the field, on the court, the rink, the pitch, what have you. And once you have seen the formula to win, we want it all the time. We demand championships. While it's easy to see on the small scale, year by year, with quantifiable statistics to chart, lifetime after lifetime is where the Buddha was heading. And once you're enlightened, you will continue, always to be enlightened. It is rare to be born into this earth as a human being, and it's even rarer to encounter Buddhism and the Lotus Sutra. So this is the time where you can become enlightened and use this formula to win long into the future. What I'm trying to get at is that Buddha says he's preaching to this impossible amount of people right from that point when he reveals the truth. How could you possibly count the number of people who've come to practice and study his sutras? While chanting, I think it's possible to be mentally connected with the Buddha through time, on the atomic particle, electron level in your brain. And this is causing you to take action now, connecting with that ceremony in the air. Once the truth is revealed, the genie is out of the bottle. 2,500 years later, you can chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo for a few minutes or an hour or however long or short that you want, and give it a try. And you can find it at sgiusa.org, on YouTube, or a phone app. Learn the rhythm, learn the Gongyo, the daily practice, and you can tap into what Shakyamuni Buddha was talking about. Shakyamuni Buddha created the Lotus Sutra, and in the 13th century, a monk named Nichiren Daishonin created the mantra of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. We'll get there, trust me, and he reveals the true aspect of all phenomena, bringing it around to now. This presentation is inspired by Bill Belichick. Everyone who reads this and overcomes their addiction and practices this Buddhism will eventually lead to ending the opioid crisis. You don't know how far into the future the karma created by this book will carry on. Just like the Buddha preaching to all the people in the ceremony in the air, Bill Belichick will help end the opioid crisis. The Buddha makes a few points during his ceremony in the air, and one of them is that if he is enlightened now, he will always be, and that if he is enlightened and the Buddha now, he must have been the Buddha the day before too. He is still the same person. He just didn't realize his enlightenment. But now that he understands this, he can focus and make that his life state. It was flipping the switch in his mind on to enlightened. Daisaku Ikeda calls this human revolution. As the earth during winter revolves around the sun and turns into spring, an unenlightened mind revolves from its winter into the spring of enlightenment. Once Buddha made this association, he was all set. He couldn't change what happened the day before, but he's still the same person. He could have been enlightened the day before, he just didn't realize it. But now that he knows, for sure, he always will. Another point he makes is that in his previous teachings were only there to lead him to this ultimate truth, the Lotus Sutra, which will teach you, too, how to attain enlightenment. Basically, all the Buddha's previous teachings were bridge years. Cubs president Theo Epstein had the audacity to suggest not going all in to win for a season. He called it a bridge year between championship contentions. Really, it was genius, because it meant he could cultivate the talent in the farm system and develop great players with a minimum payroll. He left Fenway in a gorilla suit to avoid the media, which was also genius. Buddha told this procession of people to disregard his previous teachings, because he needed to teach them to reach the level of understanding and enlightenment. Whatever you have learned before doesn't matter, but from here on, you too can be a Buddha. You, your own unique individual Buddha. Unique like, I don't know, a snowflake, a steel snowflake that's been pounded and tempered, a snowflake that won't melt under pressure and heat, but to use them to become stronger, a tougher, a sharper, a shuriken-like snowflake. Buddha was born as a human to teach humanity how to become happy. That's the point of existence, to be happy and to help others become happy. Jesus Christ had a similar message and had the characteristics of a Buddha. Christianity is the New Testament of the Bible, or part 2 of the Torah, you might say. From my understanding of Islam, Muhammad lived with the same compassion as Jesus or Buddha, and the Quran, or the Word of God as told to Muhammad by the Archangel Gabriel, contains people and events from and is the third part of that story of the Torah. Each builds on the rest, and in the Middle East, religion is the major political force and often the enemy of the other, and in order to avoid conflicts, it's best to find the similarities. Far too often, small differences in religious views can cause wars and the death of millions, and I don't just mean the Holocaust, but violence between Catholics and Protestants, between the Shia and the Sunni Muslims. It's a brutal and complex situation. I have followed various activists on Twitter, and I've seen the level of violence inflicted on people of Syria and Iraq and Iran, and activists would post public executions in Iran by ISIS and sophisticated drone footage of suicide by vehicle-borne improvised devices and aerial footage of armored-up vehicles loaded with explosives linked up to dash cams driving into U.S. trained soldiers. It looks like a video game or a movie, but it's real, and by ISIS and their affiliates. Bashar Assad's Syria is crazy, and it might look like he needs to be hung at once. President Trump should send him some justice. It's some depressing shit, and you can't unsee this horror. But the Lotus Sutra opens up to all, and once you have the knowledge, what you do with it afterward, the causes you make are 100% up to you. All the religions have good intent, but people can pervert the message to their own ends. Not only violent extremists, but slimy televangelists who fleece people for their money. After the procession, as Buddha is preaching during the ceremony in the air, a massive treasure tower, 1/3 of the size of Earth, springs up from the ground, full of untold gold, gems, and all kinds of rich stuff, and the sweetest voice calls out asking you to open the door. But when you open the door, the treasure inside is you. Plot twist. It's kind of like the movie Being John Malkovich, when you open the door and you become John Malkovich for a little while, then you're dumped out on the side of a New Jersey highway. But when you open the treasure tower, you become the treasure, inside, like the many treasures Buddha. The feeling of being many treasures Buddha doesn't last forever. Even though you are the Buddha and can enter this treasure tower anytime you want, maintaining that feeling takes practice. You might not be feeling it one day, like the door is closed and you have to believe again that you can open the door to become the treasure inside. Once you know that you can open the treasure tower and can tap into that treasure inside, from that point, you can tap into it and spend that shit and make it rain and all manner of speaking. Buddha uses one metaphor to describe how he is talking to everybody, even if they aren't there physically, and another to explain how each person is a gigantic treasure tower, which is actually the Buddha nature, and that it is inherent to your life. He is saying that any person can attain enlightenment. You don't have to be a special person or a priest. All you have to do is try, and you can enter this place now that you know it exists. I keep hammering from this point forward, but it's true. You can always influence the future from now on. You can't influence the past, though, and once you've missed an opportunity, it's gone. Now that you know you have this Buddha nature, how much do you want to extend it? How far into the future are you looking? Recorded history, human history from ancient times, isn't that old, roughly like 5,000 years, which is nothing in the cosmic timeline, if you believe it. There is tangible evidence, like pyramids and other ruins, and there is circumstantial evidence, like supposed wood from the true cross, that might require faith in the stories of antiquity. Those all have an origin somewhere, so we look to science and archaeology for the truth. The Buddhist organization I belong to, the Soka Gakkai International, We study the Lotus Sutra through our mentor, Daisaku Keita, and his lectures on the Gosho, which are letters Nichiren Daishonin wrote to his disciples. Nichiren used the Lotus Sutra to encourage his followers to maintain their faith to attain enlightenment. The Daigo Hunzun is the original mandala made by Nichiren Daishonin to teach Buddhism. It has Nam-myoho Renge-kyo down the center, written in Sanskrit and Chinese letters. It also contains representations of people and concepts to explain the Lotus Sutra. And the Gosho letters are tangible artifacts that point to his existence. The message itself is an artifact in a way, and you can hear the details of Nichiren's followers' daily lives as he encourages their practice and thanks them for donations of food and clothing and coin. I can't say that Jesus didn't exist, so the entire Bible is wrong, because there isn't much physical evidence to back it up. There is some evidence, but that doesn't prove that it's all correct. Like St. Peter's Basilica is supposedly built on the spot where Peter was executed, and the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem was built on the spot where Muhammad ascended to heaven. Coincidentally, it's the same spot Jesus was crucified. These prophets' messages continue to propagate, and now you can look back and examine how they changed the world in a similar way to the Buddha. Some things you can trace to a particular point. The Renaissance in Europe followed the Crusades, which brought back the spoils of war, and the knowledge of how to build Gothic arches and all types of inventions and philosophies from the Middle East. That is how Europe emerged from the so-called Dark Ages. But the proper credit doesn't usually go to the Islamic mathematicians or scientists. And although the Lotus Sutra starts preaching off to everyone, it took another 2,000 years for scholarly investigation to really know how to open the door to that tower and how to get it to spring forth. It is just one sutra that we practice. It's not like we take different parts of sutras and piece together the Buddha's intentions. This is the one sutra that explains the enlightenment, or more importantly, what does it mean to open it and become enlightened, and how does it relate to sports? Enlightenment or Buddhahood isn't just a passive state like, hey, you have the potential to be a Buddha. Bam, you're a Buddha. No, you need to take actions to become Buddha. Make good causes when you can. And if you make a bad cause, try to find the good in it and turn it into a good cause. Bill Belichick and the Patriots don't like to lose, of course, but it gives them an opportunity to see what they aren't doing well and to correct it. Luckily, they usually do it early in the season and are tough and well prepared when the tournament starts. And when it becomes win this game or you're done. In 2019, the Patriots started off 11-1 and finished 12-4. It's painful to see teams falter late in the season and be in a position where, a few really bad calls by the referees against a strong Kansas City team end up costing you your traditional first-round bye, or the Chiefs had a win that gave them the tiebreaker because they also finished 12-4, and maybe the Patriots lost their last regular season game against the Dolphins, who, usually play the Patriots tough, and the Patriots didn't appear to have that intensity of the do-or-die situation like we're used to seeing, and maybe they would have gotten that win in the bye. There was a boatload of karma going on here. If the Chiefs didn't win the Super Bowl because they had that extra rest of the bye because the referees gave them blowjobs because, the karma of Don Shula and the 72 Patriots, the 72 Dolphins, and they hate the Patriots, and the karma of the Harvard quarterback, fucking Matt Ryan, and the karma of Harvard quarterback, ex-Jet, Ryan Fitzpatrick, and his game-winning drive of the Dolphins playing spoiler and knocking the Patriots out in number 2. Actually, it was number 3, but the karma of playing ex-Patriot head coach Mike Vrabel and the Tennessee Titans in the first round, and the spoiler alert, the Patriots lost. It wasn't just Tom Brady out there, but every person has their own karma, and every person has the ability to step up, be the one to make the play on both sides of the ball. But no, it's 2020, don't be so binary. It's all 3 phases of the game, just like Bill Belichick says. I'm sorry, I kind of fucked up that sentence there when I wrote it. That's the cringe part. To be enlightened is to have a feeling of contentment, serenity, like you're in full control of a situation. A corny example is Neo in The Matrix, when he figures it out and he can tap into the system and do anything he wants. Tom Brady claims to have all the answers to the test now, and he is kind of like that. There's only so much an opposing team can do with 11 men on defense, and Tom Brady has seen it all. He is just one human, and it's up to other people to make plays too. It's a team sport, and just because it starts like shit doesn't mean they can't make adjustments and it's just going to stay like that. That's where the coaching staff makes the game time adjustments. Atlanta looked good against the Patriots in the first 3 quarters of Super Bowl 51, but the Patriots were helped by the surgical way Tom played in the second half, and everybody stepping up when they needed to. With the defensive takeaway and the Edelman catch, it helps to be ready when the critical moment arises and to not panic, like Wes Welker when he didn't make that catch. Not saying he was panicked, but 99% of the time he would have made that catch. It wasn't just Atlanta, but multiple teams that, when playing the Patriots, they just seemed to bungle it at the end. Either with poor coaching, bad decisions, clock management, risky and sloppy plays. The phrase we say is the moment's too big for them. Or maybe they're so flustered and intimidated by Bill Belichick and Tom Brady and emotions take over because they just want to beat them so badly. The legendary athletes rise to the occasion on the biggest stages. We call it being clutch. Like Tom Brady, David Ortiz, Pedro Martinez. That one bad pitch doesn't define Pedro. Even Eli Manning or Sidney Crosby. We need to recognize talent and what others have accomplished too. History is history. The Yankees have always dominated the American League. Montreal Canadiens have owned the Bruins in the past, and the Patriots are dominant now. But everything is in flux, always moving forward in time, writing history. The way to erase history is to forget it. And you can begin to take control and start writing your future, and your story starts now. Patriots wide receiver Julian Edelman showed such confidence at halftime during Super Bowl that he predicted it was going to be a great story, and that confidence is enlightenment. And they can be so confident because they had put in over 100 practices, and each practice was a cause towards their goal. And Bill Belichick made the cause of adding a third 2-point conversion play, which had the effect of winning the game. Most of us aren't playing football in football games, and our enlightenment must come in different forms. So that feeling of confidence, that you know the answers before they're asked, that you will be able to handle whatever problem is at hand, that's enlightenment. No one has the same karma as another person. We are all individual, and enlightenment will take many forms. We must accept every situation as unique and embrace the individuality. You might share karma with someone else, for example, have the same parents, you grow up in the same alcoholic household, but you'll have your own individual karma as well. When you hear reporters trying to get Bill Belichick to compare this year's team to the 2007 team, he will say it's kind of pointless because they're both good teams, and what's in the past is in the past, and he's focused on the next opponent. Tom Brady, Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, they're all focused to win every time. They're out there. They put their losses behind them, and they try now. And if you give everything maximum effort, karma will shake out in the end. Yes, I said maximum effort, like Deadpool, because that's what it takes, work. We can have all the faith that we have this inner potential, but it also requires study and practice. It takes all three phases of the game. Does that sound familiar? The power of 3 is crucial. 2 points make a line, and 3 points make a plane. There are no two-legged stools, although there probably is some hipster out there, artist making one as we speak. And once you have 3 points and make that plane, then you can add depth and dimension and build from there. Like the Triforce in The Legend of Zelda, is actually 3 Triforces: courage, wisdom, and power. Each one is powerful on its own, but the 3 together create a synergy where the whole equals more than the sum of the 3 parts. In Christianity, you have the Holy Trinity, the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. In Judaism, 3 stands for personal completeness. Think of the Pythagorean theorem and the properties of a right triangle, and how a GPS, the location it's triangulated. The power of 3 is obvious, and when a mentor like Bill Belichick stresses the importance of all 3 phases of the game, you better take heed. Faith, practice, and study are the 3 phases of how to use the Lotus Sutra as the base of your life and create the type of consistency that was built in Foxborough. The Celtics and the Bruins are looking to build up that type of consistency. The future looks pretty good. Red Sox have been somewhat erratic, but they still won since I started this book, so I promise to get into each sport and explain it all. Women. Let's talk about that. So, we can have faith that we can uncover our Buddha nature, but it takes more than just knowing that, however. And now we are fortunate enough to have thousands of years of study to build from. By studying, you can learn how to put it into practice in your daily life. Nichiren Daishonin made the practice accessible. so you can practice as you are without giving up your worldly possessions or devoting yourself to a monastery, because that's not practical for everyone. That's not what the Lotus Sutra is about. Nichiren Daishonin spoke about the depths of the Lotus Sutra and proclaimed that women and murderers can even attain enlightenment. And many scholars had studied for this for a long time, and it was only Nichiren Daishonin who had admitted this at first. It was disguised in the Lotus Sutra in parable as the lizard-like daughter of the Dragon King who lived underwater attained enlightenment when she took faith in the Lotus Sutra. A snake betrayed Eve, but in this story, a female lizard, a young girl of about 7 years old, becomes a beautiful Princess Buddha, just as she is, by taking faith in the Lotus Sutra. The murderer is Shakyamuni's cousin, Devadatta, who was very jealous of him, and he tried to kill Buddha on many occasions. Once by having a herd of drunken elephants trample him. And the Buddha remarked that even though Devadatta was evil in this lifetime, he was Buddha's teacher in a previous lifetime, and in time he will attain a sustaining enlightenment. The idea of a murderer becoming enlightened was unlikely, but a woman being able to do that was heresy at the time, even as late as the 13th century. This could be why Shakyamuni disguised the parable in such a way. Believe it or not, some religions repress women and treat them like second-class citizens. In 2017, women finally got the right to drive in Saudi Arabia. Alone, baby steps, into the 21st century, 800 years after Nichiren declared the Lotus Sutra applied to women too. Women only got the right to vote in the United States less than 100 years ago, at the time of this writing. The idea that a woman could become a Buddha and could be considered equal to Shakyamuni was radical, but that's what his research was telling him. The proof that women can become Buddhas was evident, and the information was probably repressed to keep women marginalized, as they have been throughout time. Like Mary Magdalene was a disciple of Jesus, and some might say the wife of Jesus. I would bet she had some teachings that he taught her alone, or she had an understanding the other disciples wouldn't have had, because pillow talk is very powerful. She is portrayed as a prostitute and has been painted negatively. And modern archaeology has found gospels related to Mary showing real insight to the role that women had, and that she was equal, if not forward, among the other disciples, and those documents and knowledge were suppressed. During the presidential election, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton ran against businessman Donald Trump and lost, but a woman had almost made it to the presidency. The tactics and influences leading to Trump's victory are dubious, to say the least, and an audio recording of Trump surfaced in which he had said, "I just started kissing them. It's like a magnet. Just kiss, I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything. Grab them by the pussy. You can do anything." And women everywhere have had enough of this sexual misogyny, unequal treatment, unfair income for the same work. Women courageously are coming forward and reporting sexual misconduct. Needham's own, Massachusetts homegrown Allie Reisman, two-time Olympic champion who has won 3 gold medals, 2 silvers, and a bronze, came forward with her teammates and reported that Team USA doctor Larry Nassar was despicable and he molested them. Allie is right there, as tough as nails, and as clutch as bloody sock Kirk Schilling or Tom Brady. As a warrior, she fought through sexual abuse to compete at the highest level and win. Massachusetts actor Ben Affleck was also accused of sexual misconduct and potential sexual assault. Michelle Williams, an actress who was earning only 1% of what Mark Wahlberg was getting paid for reshooting scenes of the movie All the Money. The movie was being shot to remove Kevin Spacey, who had been fired for his own sexual assault allegations. It's rampant in the culture, but women are taking a stand with this Me Too movement and the hashtag Time's Up movement on social media saying enough is enough. And the millions of women who have come forward proved it's an epidemic. Even Alabama Senate candidate Roy Moore was banned from a shopping mall for being a pedophile creep, but he only lost by 20,000 votes. I shit you not. Global social media sites like Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram are new in human history and have the power that they've shown extends to areas like disaster relief, social awareness, modern politics, and fake news. Now, more than ever, we need truth. A positive is that the people are coming forward to tell their stories to try to prevent future misconduct, are creating a massive social movement that's having a multifaceted impact across a variety of industries immediately, including sports, entertainment, and politics. This is a modern push for women's equality. Shitty things happened in the past, yes, but they are getting better in the future. This is guaranteed. Just the timing is unknown. Women want to be treated as equals. Everyone is human. That was the Buddha's message. We are all the same and are entitled to enlightenment. Buddha's intent was to enlighten everyone, including women. History may have tried to prevent it, but now is the time. The Lotus Sutra was very progressive for its time to suggest that women were equals and capable of Buddhahood, but it's a very deep-seated, almost instinctual need to suppress women, and it's a struggle that's been going on lifetime after lifetime. The intellectual movement will continue if you physically aren't there lifetime after lifetime, just like you don't physically need to be present at the ceremony in the air. Buddha was trying to say that everyone could become a Buddha, and that other social ramifications that go along with that, well, that's a whole nother can of worms. It took all that bullshit and strife to prepare our society. Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, and it went into effect January 1st, 1863. Without a doubt, it's been an uphill struggle for equality for generations, but that's the reality. Then there are the similarities, like women in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia are treated like slaves, having to be escorted by a man in public and getting married off as preteens to 40-year-old men. The LGBTQIA are executed. Like, America's an experiment. It's a totally new way for a nation to develop, and there's going to be a debugging process. It's in constant flux, evolving over time, a reflection of the will of the people, and we should constantly work towards improving this union, and that seems to be what's happening. America is about freedom, equality, and getting a fair shot. The reality is much harder, and we should be thankful if we were born here. Just look at all the immigration issues and the refugee situation. I know many foreign Buddhist students at Harvard or Boston University and MIT and other great schools. Some of these students struggle to get visas just to stay in the country. Problems like that make sports seem insignificant, but sports is where our hearts are in New England. Buddhism and the Lotus Sutra fit into the idea of America and the pursuit of happiness, the seeking of your own destiny, uncovering your potential, going as far as your determination will get you. It is a work in progress like anything else, and once you know you can start unlocking your potential using the Lotus Sutra, you might as well start. Appreciate where you are and understand that no matter what, it could always be worse. But if you start with appreciation, if you're reading this, I thank you, and I want you to be happy. Buddha's goal was to find the causes of suffering and end them. In 2017, it's hard to imagine a time with more suffering. Wait till you get to 2025. The Lotus Sutra is absolutely the right message for people to hear now. Instead of worrying about the end times with doomsday and Armageddon right around the corner, the Lotus Sutra offers optimism and hope and happiness for everyone, right now and into the future. An alternative is preparing for a final battle where a savior will appear, the righteous will disappear into heaven, and the dead will rise. Good and evil will fight, and the good will win. This requires a huge leap of faith in a story written thousands of years ago, based on visions and hallucinations, possibly drug-induced and the supernatural. The Lotus Sutra, on the other hand, is about accepting personal responsibility for one's own enlightenment and happiness. It is so revolutionary because it offers a simple way to finally take back control of your own situation and destiny, and not predestined fate or just up to the gods. If the suffering is happening around you, the happiness can happen too. Would you rather be a victim and keep suffering, or take control and be happy no matter where you are? It's so easy to give up and blame everything on anything else but yourself and be a victim. It takes effort and work to change suffering into happiness. Once you make that decision to start the process, to believe in yourself and the power of transformation, you can start to build from there. Grand social movements like suffrage, Christianity, emancipation, desegregation had to start at a specific point and grow, and practicing the Lotus Sutra is the start of this grand movement within you. Now is the time. Out of all the sutras the Buddha taught, the Lotus Sutra was the only one which women could attain enlightenment. While I've been practicing and chanting about chanting about this book, it is clear that this is the time to write this. Almost like the universe wanted Bakataro to get fired so he could share this. It didn't feel very good at the time, but chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo gave him the wisdom to see what a benefit it was to get fired, and the ability to find the silver linings and positives out of seemingly negative situations. The good that will come from the Me Too and Time's Up movement will radiate thousands of years into the future, and this few hundred years of abuse will seem like nothing. Bad things are going to happen. Suffering is inevitable. It's how you handle it is what matters. Finding your voice and your inner strength to see things through the eyes of a Buddha. And you will know that whatever suffering you are going through, it's only temporary. Time is relative, and it might be hard to see beyond one day at a time. You know, for a freshman in high school getting bullied, for example, 4 years of high school is a Herculean task. But after getting through it and becoming an adult, you wonder where all those years went. And Buddha understood that there are 4 universal sufferings: birth, aging, sickness, and death. If you're born into existence, you're going to get old because time inevitably moves forward. You will die, and the temporary union of elements making you up will disappear out of existence. Eventually the sun will eventually explode and blow up our solar system, and those chunks and pieces and particles will be reborn into new planets and stars. There is a cycle of creation and destruction, existence and non-existence played out on the grand cosmic scale, just as there is on the smaller scale with humans, plants, and animals. It is the same universe that we share, the same molecules and atoms. So suffering is normal and temporary, and if you can accept it and know that, you can make it through. Things happen the way they are supposed to. It's the future that changes. If the Pilgrims weren't persecuted, they never would have founded Plymouth, Massachusetts. If King George didn't tax the colonies, the Patriots wouldn't have rebelled. If the Red Sox hadn't gotten beaten up badly in games 1, 2, and 3 of the 2004 American League Championship Series to make it the greatest comeback in Boston history. When you are experiencing the shit, it's not easy to see the way out. The Lotus Sutra offers the answers to turn shit into gold, metaphorically speaking, and you can unlock the wisdom within to handle it. Time is relative, but always moving forward, so everything is in constant flux. Only the future is changeable. The past is done and can't be changed. The most important game is the next game. A winning streak can only start after a loss, so there's no better time to start a streak than right now. However small of a step forward you want to take, it is still forward progress, and that's the beginning. Chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo or practicing the Lotus Sutra at any age has merit. Even if you lose your cool and act like an asshole, you can always start again. We're in constant flux, and you can always change your future, now and forever, not 10 minutes ago in the past, but from now on. Remember the movie Spaceballs and that one part where they're watching the movie of themselves, trying to find Lone Star, and Dark Helmet is like, "When is now, now?" And Colonel Sanders says, "Soon, sir." I know I'm butchering, but you get the drift. There's no better time than now. Another story in the Lotus Sutra is that of the jewel in the robe. It is a story where a wealthy man who came back to his hometown after working abroad ran into an old friend. They ate and drank and partied the night away like college kids returning to their hometown for Thanksgiving. The wealthy man woke up early and he had to get away for business. He wanted to give his buddy a gift. Not seeing any pockets, he took a precious gem and he sewed it into the fabric of his buddy's robe, like in the cuff of the sleeve, and he left. When the buddy woke up, he didn't see his friend, and his friend was gone. He kept the party going, continued to drink and party his life away. He eventually found himself broke and living in poverty and squalor. When the wealthy man returned the next year and saw how poorly his buddy was doing, he asked him what was going on. And his buddy replied, "Well, I woke up and I had no money. I wandered the countryside trying to find work, and people assumed I was a drunk and an addict, and I had a difficult time getting money. People treated me like shit. My life was horrible." And the rich man revealed to his buddy that his suffering was unnecessary because he had this gem on him the whole time, hidden in his robe. Now the man had experienced the sufferings of being broke and how humanity treated him, and he learned a valuable lesson on how he should treat his wealth. If the buddy had known he was rich right away, he might have just partied even harder and wasted the gem. But through his suffering he gained a profound appreciation for the wealth that he now had. A modern pop culture twist on this story appeared in Arrested Development, a television show about the Bluth family, whose patriarch, George Bluth Sr., played by Jeffrey Tambor, he was convicted of fraud and put in prison, and the family's assets were frozen. They had a banana stand that sold Bluth's frozen bananas, and the father told the son, Michael, played by Jason Bateman, not to worry because there was always money in the banana stand. And Michael didn't think that there was enough money in the stand, which was selling frozen bananas for $2 a pop. And as George Sr. was accused of burning a warehouse full of evidence and the power struggle ensued over the banana stand, Michael burned it down. But George Sr. had literally meant there's always money in the banana stand because he hid $250,000 in the walls. And through a human misunderstanding and not respecting each other, they lost the hidden gem that could have turned their lives around. The money was getting burned up in the stand, and wasted is equivalent to people wasting their lives and overdosing on drugs, essentially burning their banana stand before they know they have a wish-granting gem within them. Too many people are dying prematurely and losing their banana stands. Former pro baseball player Kevin Millar said, "Don't let us win one," sparking the comeback in the Game 4 of the 2004 ALCS, when the Red Sox could have given up. Having lost Game 3, 19-8, at Fenway the night before. Any time is a good time to start practicing Buddhism, but now more than ever. It is an inclusive, universal message that is as true now as it was then and will forever be. The law of cause and effect is as constant as the law of gravity, and it continues forward constantly. I guess that's the law of time, as it only moves forward. Without a doubt, you can unlock the hidden, wish-granting gem of Buddhahood within you. It is the banana stand of your life, and you begin making good causes for enlightenment, now in the immediate short term, but also in the long term, as in lifetime after lifetime. Good causes for the cosmically long term. You can start now and keep working into infinity. In modern society, people want instant gratification. The Lotus Sutra provides an expedient means to attain enlightenment, an instant path to Buddhahood that everyone can use just as they are. If they are born, if they merely exist, they possess within them the power of the Buddha. This fact can't be stressed enough, that now is as good a time as any to take control of your destiny and life. Cash out that gem or the banana stand and do what you want to do. Whether you're a woman, LGBTQIA, only have one leg, whatever obstacle, you can chant. You have that opportunity to change, make a difference for the future. The Lotus Sutra and the enlightenment of all people is the right philosophy for this particular zeitgeist or period of time. Buddhism is both a religion and philosophy, similar to how the word Jewish refers to a religion and a race of people, even though Jewish isn't a race per se. It's more like Khazarian, whatever. Buddhism as a philosophy says that human beings can become enlightened just like the Buddha, not that the Buddha is magic and should be worshipped as a god to save you. That is one thing that separates Buddhism from other religions. You, as you are, end up becoming the Buddha and saving yourself. Other religions have people seek salvation outside themselves in a savior. In the case of Alcoholics Anonymous, people seek salvation through a higher power or spiritual being who will help them. The Lotus Sutra allows anyone to save themselves and become a Buddha once they realize it is possible, and how much enlightenment and benefit they experience is in relation to the amount of effort and causes they make. It is a very liberating sutra. Women have been suppressed for millions of years, really. And in this short frame of a couple hundred years with the sutra at this time, we could witness a resurgence, a neo-synergy of the human spirit as we approach an equilibrium between the sexes. You can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs, and this pain and suffering that's happening just as it's supposed to. Enough is enough. Stand up and take responsibility now. Nobody has to be a victim of their karma anymore. You have this power within. Karma. What is it? Karma is the Sanskrit word for action. You probably haven't heard of the third law of cause and effect. For every karma, there is an equal and opposite rekarma. No, there is no third law of cause and effect. There is just one. And of course I'm messing with Sir Isaac Newton's third law of motion. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Karma is just the word for action, but describing action as karma is rather complex. They are similar because every action, whether it's the things you actually do, words you say, or even the thoughts you think, has a reaction of creating karma. Although it is the word for action, karma is really a collection of reactions from the causes and actions you've currently or previously made. Every action creates karma, and the reaction is always equal to karma, and the results might not manifest immediately. As I've been saying, some things take lifetimes to accomplish. Karma is the result of the causes you've made, even from previous lifetimes. People know enough about karma to know that if you do good things, it creates good karma, and being a dick creates bad karma. The idea of karma is a fairly common in pop culture, and you might have been screwed over before, or wish revenge on somebody and says, "Karma's a bitch, bro," or commonly, "What goes around comes around." You want the exact same thing to happen to the douchebag that did something to you. Karma is a weapon you want to use against the person. How exactly, you never know. You just want something to happen because of what happened to you. Well, what about your own karma? You must have done something to create the karma to get screwed over in the first place. The reality is that everything that happens to you, from what, when, and where you were born to right where you are now reading this today, is a result of karma that you've created today, yesterday, last week, previous lifetimes. If you want karma to affect somebody in a certain way, you're probably thinking negative thoughts. What about the effects happening to you? What kind of karma have you created to be experiencing the circumstances you find yourself in? For better or worse, it is what it is. You know what I mean? Karma is the accumulation and manifestation of any cause or action you have made. If you were born a woman and are stuck in an abusive relationship, or you always seem to get stuck with some asshole who treats you like shit, maybe it was your karma to be born as a woman in this lifetime because you were a man in your previous life. The asshole guy you find yourself meeting, because you were a man in your previous life, you were that asshole guy and you find yourself meeting. As the asshole in your past life, you created a lot of negative karma abusing women, only to return in this life as a woman to get abused. It is kind of like Newton's third law: for every action there is equal karma created. The negative karma from past abusive relationships are manifesting now as on the receiving end of said behaviors. The girl from the previous lifetime you beat up said karma's a bitch and wished retribution, and lo and behold, you get born a woman and stuck in a cycle of bad relationships. The Lotus Sutra says that's how it is lifetime after lifetime. You'll reap what you sow. But now that you know this, for the first time ever, you have the ability to change that karma. You can become a Buddha from this point on and start making causes towards enlightenment. The Lotus Sutra allows for people to take responsibility for their karma, for their situation in life, and change it. Whatever circumstances you were born into, somehow in your previous life you caused it. Former slave owners and Confederate soldiers would be born black. Wealthy people who are dishonest are born poor, and people who make good causes as Buddhas are reborn enlightened into Buddhist families. You can become the Buddha and help others become Buddhas, and those causes help keep building forward lifetime after lifetime. Being born a woman, black, poor, or all three isn't a punishment per se, but it is major karma right out of the gate. Ever heard of Tina Turner, Nichiren Buddhist? You can still become a Buddha and turn what some would see as a disadvantage into an advantage and become a success in spite of where you came from or what you were born into. You probably find yourself in a familiar circumstance over and over. I mentioned abusive relationships, but it could be that you can't find the right job, or you're constantly hooked on drugs or alcohol, or keep finding yourself in some other shitty pattern in life. If you can recognize the patterns leading to that situation, you can take action to change that pattern, effectively changing your karma, not only for the immediate situation, but long into the future as well. Bakataro's mother, Mama-san, was a practicing Buddhist when she met Brownie and had Baka. Being born into a Buddhist family is being called a fortune baby, a little chubby baby Buddha, already being born into a practicing family, family practicing the Lotus Sutra, basically being reborn enlightened. That doesn't mean he was born with a silver spoon in his mouth. His mom had her struggles raising him. His dad was abusive, and they divorced when he was only 7 years old. His therapist now tells him that he was witnessing that kind of violence as a young child causes serious damage, but he had never thought it had, but maybe it was his karma to be born into that situation. At 41 now, it doesn't do any good to feel sorry for himself and say that because of trauma over 30 years ago, he acts the way he does. He could still be held a victim to it, or he could use the opportunity to learn the strength his mother had showed him when she chanted Nam-myoho Renge-kyo and stood up to Brownie and changed her karma and learning how to stand up for herself. Baka chose to learn from her and to chant. He could have learned the abusive side from his father and learned to treat women like shit, or he could learn the compassion and strength in the Lotus Sutra and how his mother employed the Lotus Sutra as a strategy to escape. It was a game plan for survival, and she had won. If he had followed in his father's footsteps, he would just keep creating bad karma in his life, hurting people. Instead, he followed his mother's example, seeing how she changed the bad karma in her life into good karma. There are always new tests and opportunities to win or lose. Don't worry, we'll see how Bakatari fucks up later. Bakataro may not have been born into a functional, normal family, but in his adult years he can't blame his problems on when he was a baby or blame everything on his parents. Other religions would say God made you this way or that way, or God only gives you so much you can handle, or he opens a window and he closes a door. Those are different ways of saying accept your circumstances. They were meant for you, and there is some way out. The sooner you can accept your karma, the karma of your birth, you can start to change it. Once a person gets their PhD, they're a doctor, and once you chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo or practice the Lotus Sutra, you become enlightened as a Buddha. You learn to accept whatever your current karma is and take the steps to make it better into the future. Bakataro's drug habit is a result of actions he makes, not his parents. It's his karma to change. His parents' karma to have a drug-addicted son. If, as other points of view suggest, there are a higher power making you get high, and you're powerless to change that, then why not just keep getting high? Practicing the Lotus Sutra means taking your own action, regardless of your birth. Your situation could always be worse, so you might as well start picking up the pieces and building from now on. Accept your situation and do something about it. Accepting your karma and being able to change it and become a Buddha is the essence of the Lotus Sutra. The physical form of human is a temporary union of 5 elements. We know there are more than 5 elements, but it is a temporary shell made up mostly of water with some sort of electrical energy behind it, allowing our brains to function. And in the human lifespan, which is typically less than 100 years, your body can't continue, but your karma can. A man named Jesus might have died 2,000 years ago, but the karma he generated from his acts resonates today. Good and bad, that ancient act is still affecting us. The Buddha preached the Lotus Sutra, creating karma, an action that we are experiencing and continuing today. Karma you create will equally stretch into the future. Your karma is yours, and the time to change is right now. If you don't, you'll have to eventually, for you'll repeat the same karma in your next lifetime. Karma is what you take with you lifetime after lifetime. If you tell the truth, it becomes part of your past. If you lie, it becomes part of your future. This is a quote from basketball coach Rick Pitino when he was accused of raping a woman in a restaurant. We have a whole ton to get to, but saying this has a Buddhist aspect to it. It deals with the truth. Reality is cruel and harsh. Once the truth is out there, it is what it is. But a lie means there'll be the story of what the truth is, and it'll have to be dealt with eventually. The karma created by the lie will have to be dealt with in addition to the situation you lie about. If you tell the truth, accepting responsibility, no matter how bad it makes you look, you can deal with that situation and move on. Accepting the truth that everything is happening as a result of karma that you created allows you to put that bad karma in the past, and you can work towards a happier life. By not accepting your karma and believing the truth that everyone is a Buddha, it becomes part of your future, because you will still be experiencing the negative karma that you aren't taking any steps to change. Those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. Karma is like the hidden strings that connect things to the universe, and it manifests in the present effects from previous causes. It manifests as present effects from previous causes. The Lotus Sutra is the way to learn from your history. Stop repeating the mistakes of history and cease being held prisoner to your past. It is up to you how far you want to take it. The American dream was that a person could come here with the shirt on their back and through their own determination become a success. The spirit of the West was that anyone could find their fortune. A miner, a barkeep, a prostitute, it was up to them. The Lotus Sutra is exactly like the American dream for your spirit. You can go as far as your determination will take you. The world and reality are cruel and harsh, and people have been born in worse situations than you and have gone on to become happy and lead fulfilling lives. Buddhahood or enlightenment is a feeling of happiness and contentment that is absolute happiness that will last. The happiness that we feel when we win a title lasts only as long as the championship parade, and then we come back down. The happiness is relative to us winning. If we didn't win, we wouldn't be happy. Atlanta, I'm sure, was a pretty pissed off city after the Super Bowl. But to see it like a Buddha is to appreciate the fact that you even made it there and you're so close to winning. And to see this as a coaching moment. Yes, it might have sucked, and the karma created, i.e. the 28-3 memes referring to Atlanta's blown lead in the third quarter, have been run into the ground, and is going to follow them as a part of their history. They are going to have to work hard to make that and use that 28-3 as fuel to come back and win the next year. It's hard to appreciate the coaching point as it's happening, but when practicing Buddhism, that becomes the focus. You must use your Buddha nature to see the positives in a bad situation, recognizing how your karma of how you got here and start getting you out. Start the rebuilding process. The worse your situation, the more karma you have to change. The tougher the fight, the tougher your opponent you beat, the stronger you are. If the Red Sox win their division, it's kind of a big deal because they finish ahead of the Yankees, who are always a tough team. Dan Shaughnessy of the Boston Globe makes the argument that the Patriots have an easy path to the Super Bowl because beating teams in the AFC East is like shooting tomato cans in your backyard. He's trying to discredit the Patriots' accomplishments because somehow they face weaker opponents than anyone else. Because it's just their karma that determines who they face and who faces them. There are so many teams in each conference, and you can only have so many opponents. To say they have an easier path than anyone else is foolish. They have the same opponents as everyone else. These are the teams they have to play, and injuries over the course of the season have a lot to do with it as well. There are millions of causes that are being made by all people involved. This is their karma. This is our karma, and they meet at the point in time, and the things shake out the way they shake out. We don't always win. We've been on the losing end for a while. If the Patriots' opponents had been like tomato cans, it's because the Patriots put the causes in to be prepared for any situation that comes up, and Tom Brady has the answers. We don't get to choose our opponents in life. They are based on our karma. We just need to make the best of it and do what we can to make things better. Being reborn as a fortune baby is like being in the AFC East. It might make my path appear easier, but we are still human and have the same types of problems as anyone else because we are living together at the same time, and every other team is improving as well. We still have to practice and grow. So, during Super Bowl 51, when the Patriots were losing pretty badly, and we could look at what they were doing wrong and make adjustments to turn things around mid-game, and during the start of the 2017-2018 NFL season when the Patriots started 2-2, the defense was giving up as many as 35 points a game, and people were panicking, on sports radio anyway. But the Patriots were able to make adjustments and lost only one more game during the regular season. How they finish the season determines how they go forward, with drafting new players coming out of college. The better a team is, the later in the draft they get to choose. The worse a team is, the earlier or higher draft pick they get. In effect, giving the worst team the first choice to get the best player available. This gives them a chance to address the problems with their team and help make the season-to-season adjustment. Right there you can see that there is the karma. The quarter-to-quarter, the karma, the week-to-week, the game-to-game, the year-to-year, the season-to-season, and it's all related. You need to start on the smallest level in yourself, which is to win minute by minute, to turn things around. And if things are going well, you can take it to a whole nother level. There is no draft to get a great player to bail you out if you fuck up and finish last in the division of life, though. You are the drafted player, your family is the team, and every day is a chance to start winning. Your season is your lifetime, your games are year to year, your daily life is play to play. If you can win in your daily life and string along a couple wins, you can build on that, and year after year you will find growth. Yes, there will be ups and downs, wins and losses. You just want to have more wins than losses at the end of the season, right? Win 4 days out of the 7-day week and you've won the 7-day series of life. Ready for the next round. Winning in daily life is different for everyone because we all have our own individual karma to deal with. Tom Brady and Bill Belichick make the causes to win on the field. That's their job. We can understand the causes for that kind of winning. Winning for Bakatari and changing his karma means not calling his plug for coke or dope. A small victory for the day-to-day that he can build on. AA members try to win one day at a time, and they string together to make years of sobriety. When we see a team crumbling, we want them to get back to basics and do the little things and focus on the task at hand. The Lotus Sutra is the sutra for the ages, and now is more important than ever for people to hear it. We discussed how Buddha preached the Lotus Sutra, that everything practiced before was wrong, but was necessary to lead him to the Lotus Sutra. The Lotus Sutra is a guide for anyone to become a Buddha, and I have given a rough guide on how to use the Lotus Sutra, on how the Lotus Sutra is enlightenment for everybody, and how we all have the hidden potential of Buddhahood, of owning our own karma and taking responsibility for our lives and becoming the Buddha, not looking at Buddha as a supernatural being. Buddha does teach you, because he reveals the Lotus Sutra, on how to become enlightened and happy, and the true aspects of all reality and phenomena that we experience. In the 21st century, at this dawn of social media, we can share the message of Buddha from 2,500 years ago and test its validity against all other knowledge. Although the Lotus Sutra has crazy impossible stories, the themes behind them are true and are the secrets to becoming happy. The way a beautiful lotus grows in a nasty swamp. It is never too late to start making good causes. Today is the first day of the rest of your life. You might have heard that saying. Well, now, if you didn't know before, you're a Buddha, and you are for the rest of your lifetimes. And once you're in existence, you can make the causes that will continue into the future. You can't make causes to change the past, or else we would all be winning Mega Millions. But because you've come in contact with Buddhism and the Lotus Sutra and Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, you can become enlightened. Think of how many people live their entire lives without seeing the Red Sox win the World Series. It's easy to imagine people living their entire lives without knowing they are Buddhas, or what karma is, or what they can do to change it. Other religions teach people good morals and to live good lives for a reward in heaven. Karma will also give you a reward based on how you live, but it's right here on earth. It makes sense to me that the spirit, or karmic energy, could get recycled into another temporary vessel or another human body, which is mostly water. The Lotus Sutra explains our oneness with the environment. We affect our environment, and our environment will be here after we're gone. And because humans are roughly 60% of water, and the earth is covered in 70% water, it's pretty close. Does it mean anything? I don't know. Similar ratios. It's probably related. I have talked about why the Lotus Sutra says everybody can become enlightened, and briefly on what it means to be enlightened. It's easy to say that anyone can be a Buddha, or that we all have this hidden potential, and once it's revealed, we can work with it. The concept that anyone can do this is simple, but it's also deep and complex, because it continues forever. Time has been passing. In the past, you are ignorant of your Buddha nature, but now that you know, the future will be forever changed. Now we can accept our karma. We can know that we are experiencing whatever we are because we are a Buddha, because the causes we've made. It's one thing to say, I am a Buddha, but it's another to understand what it means to live it by using the Lotus Sutra to raise your life condition to that of the enlightened human, or Buddha.